Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Under the Umbrella Podcast. We here with another one. Happy Friday to everybody. We're gonna be recording this on Friday, so if you're watching, man, shout out to all you guys that have been watching, viewing us, keeping us engaged, making us want to make more videos. We appreciate everything you guys have been doing, liking, commenting, subscribing, and giving us views, especially on YouTube. And we new to YouTube, so we didn't expect much from YouTube, to be honest. So we want to appreciate that today. Today we got an interesting episode. Today we're gonna talk about the Unrivaled Basketball League, the Women's 3-on-3 League that was created by Nafisia Collier and Brianna Stewart. We got some updates. The teams have been selected, and the coaches are assigned to their teams now. So it's interesting. And before we get started, Cam, you got anything to say to them folks?
Yeah, as usual, thank y'all for, keeping up with us, watching, listening, subscribing, liking the content. Like Ken said, especially with us being new to YouTube now and trying to give y'all some visuals on that route. We appreciate y'all, subscribing to the channel, giving us the views, liking the videos. This is for y'all. I mean, y'all keep us engaged. Y'all keep, liking what we're bringing to y'all. So we appreciate it, and we're about to get started with this episode for y'all.
Yeah, so recently the Unrivaled Basketball League just had their quote unquote draft. It's like they did their own style of a draft. I believe they did it on Tuesday or Wednesday. So they put all the players like in a pod. They call it a pod, where they put players in a pod, base them on their positions and skill set. And then the six coaches would pick all these players from these different positions and try to balance teams out. But the catch is the coaches they don't know which team they're gonna coach, so they're just selecting people like, hey, this would be a balance here for this position, and they will send it over, and all these players will get assigned to teams. So it was like a draft without being a draft, so it was like kind of unique. And today we're gonna give you guys the rosters, who's coaching what teams, and me and Cam are gonna probably debate on which team we think are the best, who got a chance to win it all. And before we get started, so it's two teams that have a wild card. I don't know from the top of my head which two teams. So if you have a wild card, according to the GM, of the league, if you have a wild card, basically just to keep it simple, if your team have a wild card, the players and the coach could go recruit. So like a person like Asia Wilson, who hasn't declared, like, said anything if she's gonna play or not, these players, these women players, they could call them up and be like, hey, come play with us. Like, we got the one wild card spot. So that's kind of cool because they have 34 players, but only a total of 36 could play. So two wild cards out there. So when we go over the list, we're gonna speak on the wild cards a little bit more, get into that. But so Cam, how you feel about the draft before I pop this the concept of the draft before I pop these roster ups and we speak on these rosters?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I honestly didn't even look too much into how they went about selecting the teams, because honestly I didn't even catch when they released it on their Instagram. I kind of just was doing some research and then went back to their page and noticed that they had added 2 spots and had the teams selected and the coaches selected for each team and all of that. So I didn't even know that that's how they went about doing it, which honestly, it makes sense. Like, instead of it kind of being like a pickup game or a normal kind of draft situation where you're just trying to, like, you get an order, teams get an order in the draft and then you try to select, I guess the best players when your pick comes. But them doing it like that, where pretty much the coaches have input on the rosters and making sure they're balanced and trying to even them out, but also not getting any inclination of which team that they're going to be coaching. That's interesting. And I feel like that's a good way to kind of keep everything balanced and kind of keep it from there being like overwhelming favorites in the league, especially that it's new. You don't really want that. you don't want there to be overwhelming favorites necessarily because it's the first year. You kind of want it to be even and want there to be speculation about who's gonna gel together, who's gonna play well, stuff like that. So I like that concept, honestly. I feel like maybe the
Yeah,
big three can take some notes from that and maybe change up their draft style. Because I think the big three kind of has like a more traditional style draft. Yeah, I definitely like that they did it that way. And that way, the coaches kind of get like a clean slate. They don't know who's going to be on their team while they're making these selections for the draft. But once they do, then it's like, all right, they can kind of know what they want to do or how they want to go about playing. So that's definitely an interesting way to do it. I definitely like that one.
yeah, it's definitely interesting. That I thought it was like cool. Now, like these coaches, they can't preset their game plan. Now they just like now they got to work on their like yo who I'm gonna work with. So to kick it all off, we're gonna start with the Miss Basketball Club. So just to remind everyone, these six teams are not associated with any city or any team. They kind of did it like Euro style, where it's just basketball clubs. So the first team I'm gonna announce the roster spot and who's coaching where. I'm gonna start off with the Miss BC, the Miss Basketball Club. So the Miss will be coached by Phil Handy, and the rosters are going to be Jewel Lloyd, Dejanay Carrington, Brianna Stewart, Courtney Van Sloot, Rakia Jackson, Aaliyah Edwards. So that's a pretty decent squad right there, in my opinion. You got B Stu, the founder, one of the top three best players in the WNBA. Plus, you got Jewel Lloyd.
Right.
Any likes you got about that roster, Cam?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I seen that Phil Handy was coaching them, I definitely like that as far as with the team they have. Obviously, you got B Stewart. She's a killer. She's a dog. I think with her and Dejanay Carrington on the same team, I think that'll give them some defensive flexibility. They can kind of guard multiple positions. Dejanay is more suited to, I think, guard more like guards, maybe some forwards. But I think with her and Brianna Stewart, I think that'll give them some defensive versatility. Um, and with the others, with Aaliyah Edwards, Rakia Jackson, Jewel Lloyd, those are to me, bucket getters. I think Rakia Jackson and Jewel Lloyd are more like a scorer type. Where I think Courtney Van Sloot, I think she'll definitely be able to help them spread the floor. I think Phil Handy will have a fun time kind of figuring out how they're going to go about playing. But when I first seen this roster, I think it was for me. I know we didn't even get to that part yet, but I think with the Miss, when I first seen their roster and obviously the coach, I've kind of put them in that top two of the teams that I think will kind of stand out and kind of lead the league record wise. But I think even with like a Rakia Jackson, a young player, still got, a little bit to prove within the league, but as far as the W, but I think her playing in this league will, especially with her playing with other veterans and stuff, I think that'll kind of give her some more confidence, and I think she'll be able to pick up some things from players like Brianna Stewart, Aaliyah Edwards, players like that. And then Phil Handy, I think he's gonna have a great impact on her individually because I feel like he's probably most definitely gonna work with her on some individual stuff. I think that could definitely help, and then I think it'll just kind of help her grow in her game and then kind of set her up for her second year in the W. So I definitely like the overall roster of this team.
Yeah, it's a good roster, and I'm a big Rakia Jackson fan. I like her game a lot. I'm a big fan, so I'm looking forward to see her play. So we're gonna move on to roster. I mean, team number 2, which is the Lunar Owls basketball club, which will be coached by DJ Sackman. And this roster will be filled with Skylar Diggins, Smith, Alicia Gray, Felicia Collier, Natasha Cloud, the wild card that we were speaking about, which is interesting, and Shakira Austin. Which this roster I think is a pretty balanced roster. I think they don't, as the previous roster, I think they don't have like the Drew Lord, this super explosive guard play. But don't get me wrong, Skylar Diggins and Gray they not no slouch on perimeter play. And Cloud is a lockdown defender, and she's a good point guard. So it's a more balanced squad. I'm not too big on this roster. I do like Naficia Collier though. Any take for you, Cam?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think I'm as high on the Lunar Owls as maybe like the Mist or the Laces, where we're gonna get to that team soon. But I think they may lack a little bit of size. I think they'll probably be more perimeter oriented as a team. I like Nafisha Collier. I think she'll work down in the post a little bit more than anybody else on the roster, but I think that may be one of their only weaknesses. Maybe their size and just their ability to defend the post against um, teams that have like a Brittany Griner. So I think that could kind of hurt them a little bit. But like you said, they still have a good overall team. Skylar Diggins is more like a floor general. Like you said, Natasha Cloud, very good point guard. I think Shakira Austin has like I think she's more like a scorer, like a versatile scorer. She kind of reminds me a little bit of Satu Sabali, so I think she'll bring those abilities to this team. Obviously, I think Nafisha Collier will lead this team, and her being a defensive player of the year, I think she'll help on that end as well. But we'll just have to see how they kind of gel. DJ Sackman, the head coach of the Lunar Owls, I don't really know too much about him. I know he's like a skills coach, so I'm not sure maybe about too much about his X's and O's as far as the game is concerned, but I definitely think he's probably most likely very capable. So we'll just have to see how they kind of gel and figure out X's and O's about what they want to do out on the floor. Because I think they'll definitely have some things to figure out, but I think they'll be pretty good.
Yeah, and they still got the wild card. We don't know who that wild card
Facts.
could be. So that could be another boost player. So that's something just to keep in mind that they still got the wild card. So the next squad we're moving on to is the Rose Basketball Club, which will be coached by Nola Henry. I'm a big fan of Nola Henry as a coach. She stepped in. She's a younger coach, and this will be very interesting. Give her a chance to showcase more of her skills to the WNBA. Possibly when a job open up, they could take a chance on her. So this roster is filled out with Chelsea Gray, Kalia Cooper, Angel Reese, Brittany Sky, Lexi Hall, and Azura Stevens. For me, I really just want to see probably Angel Reese play with Gray to see how Gray gonna like set her up throughout this whole thing because she's like the point guard of the WNBA
Yeah,
right now. I know.
facts.
Well, after Sue Bird retired, I consider like the point guard of the WNBA right now. So
True.
it's not one of my favorite roster, but Cooper will at least they got that perimeter scorer there too. So I mean, I said Cooper. Copper will. Yeah, sorry about that, y'all. Copper will be a top tier scorer in this 3-on-3 league. That is for sure. I
Very
know that
true.
for sure. And Angel Reese is gonna get rebound. So, any take on that rosters, Cam?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really want to watch this team just because I know, like you said, Chelsea Gray. She's known for being a very good point guard, finding her teammates, flashy passes here and there. I think kind of seeing her and Angel run the pick and roll, kind of see how that works. I think she'll be able to get Angel a lot of easy buckets as far as just rolling to the rim or her penetrating to the middle and kind of dumping off passes to her to finish. Obviously, Angel's going to hit the glass. So I think that'll help them. Like you said, Kalia Copper on the perimeter, she's a lethal scorer. So I think that'll kind of be where they kind of look for her to kind of lead them in that aspect of kind of creating her own shot and stuff like that. They got few shooters. So I think they like you said, it's not one of my favorite rosters as far as over, the entirety of it. But I think, like you said, with Nola Henry, she's had some WNBA coaching experience, some collegiate coaching experience. So I think she'll definitely be able to figure out how they want to go about playing. I hope that this league will help Nola Henry, like you said, either get a coaching job in the W or possibly get a women's NCAA coaching spot. If there's programs that are available, maybe they'll want to take a chance on her. So I think that'll be a good thing if she can kind of get something out of that part. But I think they have some work cut out for them as far as the competition. But I think because once we get to the scheduling, we'll kind of see who's playing each other. But I think they'll be decent, but I think they may struggle. It's kind of similar with the last team we just talked about with the Lunar Owls. I think they may lack a little bit of size. They may lack a little bit of defense as well. So I think that could play a part. But we'll just have to watch and see when it comes to the Rose Basketball Club.
So moving on, we have the Vinyl Basketball Club, which is coached by Teaspoon. Everybody should know Teaspoon. If you're a basketball person, you should know who Teaspoon is. And Teaspoon bring energy. So it's an interesting roster because she do have some defender and she have one very offensive minded player there that could be a key to possibly who they got a roster. I'm not gonna lie. Vinyl Basketball Club has a roster. So let's get to it. So I don't want to botch her name. Cam, you want to say her name? I don't want to botch her name. I just know her as Ogwamale. So I just know her as that, the wing star guard and Notre Dame, big career. And then you have Ryan Howard from the Atlanta Dreams, Aaliyah
A
Boston,
bucket.
Jordan Canada, Ray Burrow, and Dearica Hamby. So that squad, I think, is one of my more favorite squads. So I want to see if Teaspoon is going to be more defensive heavy and want a lot of intensity from them. Howard is someone I always been trying to keep eyes on because she's a former number one draft pick. Her skill sets are there, but I don't know if because of the injuries last season. And then Aaliyah Boston is like she's good. Aaliyah Boston is good. So I want to see how all this going out. And then you have Canada as a baller. And Hamby, so she comes from a 3-on-3 world. Played FIBA for last year for the Olympic. Then I think a year before that she did FIBA she did the Olympic 3-on-3, and I think the year before that she did the FIBA 3-on-3 too. So she gonna have that experience knowing how to play 3-on-3 basketball because it's not a 5-on-5 game. So that's something we always got to keep in our mind too. Anything you want to put out about this squad, Cam?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the part with Dearica Hemby having the 3-on-3 Olympic and FIBA experience. I think it's one other person on another roster that has 3-on-3 FIBA experience. I think I marked who it was, but I think that'll be important to this team. Her having that experience and kind of maybe having more insight of how to go about playing. But like you said, I'll start with Aaliyah Boston. I think whoever is running the pick and roll with her, I think that'll be lethal. I think she's really good at setting picks, rolling to the bucket, finishing well. She's gonna hit the glass. And like you said, Ryan Howard, a bucket, score. I think she'll definitely be looked at on this team as somebody that when they need a bucket, they'll probably go to her or Erica. I never know how to say her name. I'm not even gonna try to say the last name. I don't even
Yeah,
know if Erica is how you say her first
we
name.
call her
I
Baby
just
Kobe,
assume that.
bro.
Yeah, but she's a bucket, 3-point sniper. The
Yeah.
other two, the two that recently got added, Ray Burrell and Jordan Cannon. I don't know too much about them. I know Burrell is on the Sparks, Jordan Cannon is on the Dream. So them both having a Hemby
Jordan
who's
Cannon
also
is
on the Sparks.
she a tough guard.
Okay.
Jordan Cannon is just a tough guard. She remind me like of if you had to like compare it to like an NBA player, maybe like a Trey Jones kinda. It's a tough guard.
Okay.
It's just a tough one.
Got you. All right.
Yeah.
But
No, Tyus Jones.
them
My bad. Not Trey Jones. Not Trey Jones. Tyus.
ties. Okay. I got you. That's a good comparison
Yeah.
though.
Like
But
Tyus Jones.
those
Yeah.
those two that kind of came along a little later, them both having teammates on their roster that they've played with, I think that'll help them as well as a team. Um, Teaspoon as their head coach, I didn't even know obviously she was the Chicago Sky head coach last season, but I didn't even know she had experience as an NBA assistant with the Pelicans. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of good experience. Obviously, I mean, if you're a huge basketball fan like we are, what Teaspoon did in the W. Like that kind of goes without saying. She was lethal, point guard, could defend, could score, could pass. So, and like you said, she brings energy as a coach. She did the same thing as a player. So I know she'll do that with this team. I think with this team in particular, I think they'll really relate to her well and kind of use that energy she has and kind of bring it to the court. So yeah, I think the Vinyl they're one of those. I don't think I put them in my top two, but I think they're right there on the cusp of being like a top 3 or 4 team as far as in my opinion. And I think that's more so just because of the Aaliyah Boston, Ryan Howard, Erica, and Erica Hemby. I think just those four alone, like that gives you a lot to work with. So I think kind of
A lot.
them figuring out how they want to play, especially when it comes to teams having to guard them, that's going to be a tough guard for some of these teams. So I think once they kind of get going and kind of find out what they want to do, I think they'll start to progress. But if Teaspoon is your coach, I feel like the mentality is gonna be there. It's just about figuring out the X's and O's. So I think once they kind of do that, they'll be able to kind of work their way up the ladder within the league.
Yeah. So moving on to the next roster, the Lace Basketball Club. This is more like the interesting roster. The Lace Basketball Club will be coached by Andrew Wade. The roster fills out with Kelsey Plum, Kayla McBride, Alicia Thomas, Courtney Williams, Kate Martin, and Stephanie Dawson. So this roster for me is, which is like so funny, is super guard heavy. Like
Mm-hmm.
their perimeter game is gonna be very, very tough to deal with because McBucket is a shooter and she could put it on the deck if she needs to. Not the greatest, but she's a shooter. Plus you got Plum and Courtney Williams. The foot speed there alone is gonna be crazy. And then you got the dog and Martin. and then you got the walking triple double with Thomas. So it's like this is like probably the roster you like, yo, when they get on the court, you're gonna have a hard time. Like, yeah, they might lack a little size, but Thomas is not small, and Dawson might be slow in feet. So if you play against them, you might try to go faster, but they got guards to go faster with you too. So they're gonna be a difficult matchup to see, for real, for real. What you think of the Lace, Cam?
Yeah, honestly, when I first seen the rosters, this was the roster I picked. Just and like you said, I definitely agree. They may lack. They're definitely going to be one of those teams that probably lack some size and lack like some inside presence. I think Alyssa Thomas will work from the block a little bit, posting up or whatever. But I think, like you said, she's more of like a triple threat, triple double threat. So I think she'll kind of be like the Swiss Army knife and kind of do a little bit of everything on this team. But like you said, the shooting is there for sure. So, the shooting is there. Even if you're looking at Stephanie Dawson, who shot 46% from three last year, I'm like, yeah, the shooting is definitely there with Kayla McBride, Kelsey Plum, Stephanie Dawson, and then even Katie Martin. Then you got Courtney Williams, who's more like can get her own bucket, create her own shot, can get to the rim. I think. Who else is on there? Kelsey Plum. I think she's like you said, the foot speed. I think she can break defenders down, get in the paint, get to the rim. The defense is probably the only thing that I would be worried about with this team. Um, they don't. I feel like in most instances, players that are shooters aren't necessarily the best defenders in some cases. But I think they'll be able to kind of figure out ways to work around that. But I think if you have like Alyssa Thomas and Dawson will probably take, whatever size their opponents has, they'll probably take those matchups. But like you said in the beginning, the guard play on this team, I think, is the best in the league as far as the rosters are concerned on paper. So this is definitely the team that I looked at. Like, I definitely want to see them play. Like, that's going to be some good basketball,
Yeah.
some good scoring, all of that. Some probably got some good passes. So I think that's the Laces is definitely a team that I'm going to be looking out for sure.
Last but not least, the final team. Yeah, this the final team, right? The
Yep, the
Phantom,
Phantom.
the Phantom Basketball Club. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're the final team. The final team is the Phantom Basketball Club head coach Adam Harrington. The roster fills out with Jackie Young, Maria Mabry, Satuba Sabali, Tiffany Hayes, the wild card, and Brittany Griner. This roster is more similar to how we looked at the Rose Basketball Club earlier. It's like you don't want to put this roster all the way at the top in the top two, but you do like, yo, they have some players. Like Jackie Young is a problem. Like
Facts.
she's a problem. Plus you got the scorer in Mabry. Mabry is a legit scorer. And she shoots, but she could score too. And then
Yeah.
you got the unicorn in um Sabali, and then Tiffany Hayes is a problem. So plus the whole crazy thing about them, Cam, this could change. They could jump in and probably be the number one team because what if they get Asia Wilson? Like
Yeah,
it
then
might
that
be
their
like
post game
think
is going to
about it.
be
Like what if they get Asia
unstoppable.
Wilson? They might be the best team on paper.
Nah, that's
Yeah,
facts.
like they might be the best team on paper because now you could put Brittany Griner on the bench and then run the first three with Wilson and then switch it out. So like that's what I'm saying. Unless they find another wild card that fit, but so far it's there. They're there. Like I all right. I'll put them top two right now. I'll take that. I think they're top two team. I tell people this. I'm not a big BG fan. I don't know about you, Ken. We could disagree on this. I'm not a big BG fan. I think BG, her career, the way I expect her career to go, to me is disappointing. And a lot of people might not say that, like think that, but I think BG should be like how Asia Wilson is perceived right now. Like I personally thought she was gonna dominate the league for years to come, and it felt like she didn't. So that made me look at BG different every year. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, but that's just my take. But anyway, that's getting off topic. How you feel about the Phantom Basketball Club, Ken?
I like the roster. Like you said, Mabry's on there, can score, can shoot the ball. Sabali, versatile scorer, can do a little bit of everything. Can score, shoot the jumper, pass, can rebound a little bit. Jackie Young, she's one of my favorite guards in W. So I definitely feel like Jackie Young she'll definitely flourish in this type of environment. Tiffany Hayes, she plays with the Aces. So she's, she knows how to play basketball, Like you said with
Yeah,
Brittany Griner, I think in this atmosphere, having a post player is necessary because I think that's what will give certain teams advantages because obviously the guard play, like on most of the teams, they got these. And like we've said in the previous episode where we covered this league, it's, these are some of the best in the W. So it's no slouches anywhere.
yeah,
So I think if your team has any reliable post presence, I think that'll give you a slight advantage just on the offensive end. But then you also got to think about Brittany Griner's defensive presence as far as the paint. But like you said, it may be some matchups where Brittany Griner may not fit the defensive and offensive scheme of what they got to do to beat a certain team who has a certain roster. Like I said, um, I think if you have another like when let's say the Phantom played a Rose and Angel Reese is playing, like, all right, you can match Angel Reese and Brittany Griner, I guess, against each other, even though BG has the size on her still, because Angel Reese is more like, I would say she's more like an undersized big, kinda. But I think certain matchups, BG will be able to do her thing. But I think defensively is where that may impact her being on the court. And like you said, they may have to kind of switch up lineups and kind of have her maybe sitting during certain matchups because she's not going to guard on the perimeter well and stuff like that. So, but overall, I think the Phantom is definitely going to be a team that you definitely going to have to worry about because I think they're probably the one of the few teams in this league that has some size. So I think that'll be a little bit hard to deal with. But the perimeter defense may be a little shaky, so that may be something that may come into play for them as well. Um, Even with the head coach Adam Harrington, I don't really know too much about him. I know he was a Brooklyn Nets assistant, and then I think he ended up moving to player development. But I think they'll be able to figure it out. Like you said, they also have the wild card, so we don't know what direction they may go with that wild card spot. Which I think the two teams that have the wild card, I think it would be in their best interest to get somebody with size. That's just me, but it'll be interesting to kind of see what those teams end up doing with those wild cards.
yeah. That's something we gotta keep our eye on, the wild card. And before you get out of here, you want to who? So who's your final team? You like this? The team I'll take. Who will be your final team before we get out of here?
Let me see. Honestly, I'm gonna take the Laces, dog. That's just me. I'm gonna take the Laces. It's my top two
That's a good
between
choice.
them and the Mist. But I think with the shooting that the Laces have and this 3-on-3, if it was 5-on-5, I would take the Mist. Because it's 3-on-3, I would take the Laces first, just because the shooting and more of the perimeter play of this team. Whereas I think like even with the Mist, they have scoring, but I don't think they have their entire roster. I don't think has players that can spread the floor the way the Laces do. So I think they're kind of like my favorite so far, just based on the roster on paper. But Ken, before we get out of here, I'm gonna just go through. They also released the schedule for the season, so I'm just gonna go through the
Yeah, go
schedule
ahead
real
and do that.
quick.
I forgot about the schedule.
Yeah,
My bad.
and are you good? And they also did like a ticket pre-sale, and they said the tickets sold out in 30 minutes, which is crazy. So I'm gonna get into some of these dates. So obviously the first games start on January 7th, and they go all the way through till March the 10th. So I'm gonna make it real quick. So January 17th, we have the Mist versus the Lunar Owls, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. Also on the 17th, the Rose Basketball Club versus Vinyl, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. January 18th, Phantom versus the Laces at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on True TV. And they also have the Lunar Owls versus the Rose, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on True TV as well. January 20th, Vinyl versus Phantom, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT, as well as the Laces versus Mist, which that's going to be a good matchup at 9:15 Eastern Time on TNT. January 24th, Phantom versus the Mist, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT, as well as the Laces versus Vinyl, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. The next game, January 25th, Mist versus the Rose, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on True TV.
You know what's interesting? I want to know how they do in the playoffs. Just top two, top three. I mean top four. I want to know how they're gonna do the playoffs. That's something else we're gonna have to come back to when we get a chance. That'll be interesting
Yeah,
too.
hopefully they drop some more information on how that's gonna go. But yeah, we definitely can keep our eyes open for that.
Before we get out of here, I want to thank everybody once again for watching us, staying with us for this episode. We just want to give a update. I mean, I feel like we're trying to be on top of like this basketball league that's just new to the world, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about it. Like, yeah, some people talk about it, but not a lot of people get as in depth as how we like kind of like broke down the roster and spoke on it. So that's something I hope people do watch the entirety of the episode to see like us legit talking about these teams and breaking down how we expected the league to go, how some players might perform, and especially these coaches. So before we get out of here, you guys know my saying, man. Stay under the umbrella until next time. We appreciate everything. Thank you.